Special technique. Special technique of shadow boxing. Special technique of shadow boxing. Shadow boxing. Shadow boxing. Shadow boxing. Shadow boxing. Shadow boxing. Yo, what's going on? You are here live on the Go Long Media channel on Blog Talk Radio, and this is the latest podcast episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. I am your host, James Bell, lead boxing analyst for the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. You can catch articles on thechtonsports.com. Once again, thechtonsports.com. You can also follow the Boxing Source on social media. You have the Boxing Source on Instagram. That's at the Boxing Source. On Twitter, it's at Boxing Source 2. And then you could look up the Boxing Source on Facebook and also on Google Plus, and you'll be able to find the pages for that there. So you'll be able to get all the updates and things like that for the Boxing Source on social media through the week leading into the weekly podcast. And like I said before, you have boxing articles on the chtonsports.com, so you'll be able to catch that. Number to dial in to talk boxing is 347-237-5539. Once again, 347-237-5539. You'll be able to press the one key to get on queue, and then you'll be able to talk live on the show. We're pretty much going to have a 1-hour podcast this weekend, as we're going to mainly go over what happened at the Barclays Center on Saturday night. That was headlined by the IBF welterweight title clash between Errol Spence and Lamont Peterson. So we're going to be going through that particular fight in depth here in this episode. So we would like to get some people's input on that particular fight and other fights on that fight card. Plus, we're going to go through a few updates in the boxing schedule that are coming up over the next few months, and then have a little look ahead on what's in store for the 27th of January, as we'll have a few title fights on 27th of January, and also a couple of other notable fights. So we could get through all of that here on this podcast for Sunday, January 21st. But first, what I want to do is just go through a quick break and get this out of the way, and then we could get through this episode here. Once again, this is the Boxing Source Radio Show on the Go Long Media channel on Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, all this is Matthew Long with the Cold Hard Truth on Sports and the Triangle Offense. I just wanted to take some time to tell you about PestBear, a wonderful company. They've been around for 20-plus years. They have over 11 branches in Florida. Great licensed, certified specialists, and guess what? They do more than pest control. They also take care of termites as well as lawn care, sprinkler systems, and much, much more. Call today, 1-800-PestBear. That's 1-800-737-8232.
WCSB Sports and MRN Broadcasting, powered by blogtalkradio.com.
right, we are back here on the Boxing Source Radio Show on the Go Long Media channel on Blog Talk Radio. Number to dial in is 347-237-5539. Once again, 347-237-5539. Press the 1 key to get on queue, and you'll be able to talk live on the show. Like I was saying here, before that commercial break, we were just going to go through what happened over at the Barclays Center yesterday, as they had a few fights on the card. I was able to attend that particular event there at the Barclays Center. It was a fairly good atmosphere out there in the Barclays Center for this particular fight card. Just going through my experience, I was able to roll in there around a little bit after 7:30 actually, and I mean, there were like a few things that I didn't really expect in reference to the overall fight card order, leading into the Showtime telecast that started at 9 p.m. Eastern time yesterday. Like I was saying, I was able to, get in there a little bit after 7:30. Got to my, seating area, whatnot. Pretty much good time. There wasn't crowd didn't really necessarily fill in by then. So I was able to get into my seats fairly easily. But most of the fights, a few fights that were out there, already went through. One of them was actually the super lightweight clash between Anthony Peterson and Luis Eduardo Flores. And right when I pretty much got into the stadium, the Adam Kaunaki-Iago Kalaze fight ended up being done. So, I was able to, see a couple of the lower tier card fights, including the Matthew Gonzalez-Alexander Serna fight, and the fight between Keyshawn Williams and Dennis Uckhoff. Keyshawn Williams and Dennis Uckhoff ended up being a split decision draw. While I saw like Matthew Gonzalez pretty much outpoint Alexander Serna for unanimous decision win and pretty much a shutout decision victory in pretty much 4 rounds, as that was the third professional fight for both Matthew Gonzalez and Alexander Serna. But like I was saying, came in and just missed the heavyweight fight between Adam Kaunaki and Iago Kalaze, and that fight went 6 rounds. Ended up being a TKO win for Adam Kaunaki, and Adam Kaunaki went to 17-0 with his 14th knockout of his professional career. What is interesting here, I was hoping that I was able to make this fight because I was saying that a good number of Polish contingent that is around the nearby area, New York City, Brooklyn, over in New Jersey, would make the trip over to the Barclays Center in order to see Adam Kaunaki in action. You had Iago Kalaze coming there from the weigh-in at 6'3" and a half and 220 and a half pounds. But you had Adam Kaunaki there at 6'3", but also but he came in at 260 pounds, which is, really big size for someone of Adam Konaki's stature. But even, with that, he was still able to get the TKO victory within 6 rounds. I think overall they said that, it was kind of like disappointing there for Konaki to come in at 260 pounds and go up against, Kalazde, who, was barely notable even with 26 professional wins in his career with just one loss. A lot of the fights that he had were over in Ukraine before having his, last few fights here. 3 of the last 4 of his professional fights before this one were over in stateside. So he's had, one fight over the Madison Square Garden, and also his previous fight before this was at the Barclays Center as part of the Deontay Wilder Brahman Severn 2 card. But, here he wasn't able to, muster much against Adam Konaki to end up losing that fight by TKO. Like I was saying before, that super lightweight fight with Anthony Peterson, he was able to get a shutout decision victory over Luis Eduardo Flores, with actually, 2 judges, giving Anthony Peterson a 100-89 card, while one other one gave it 100-90. So there was that. And then, pretty much before they were starting up the Showtime telecast, they had a light heavyweight fight between undefeated Marcus Brown and Francie Ntetu. You had Marcus Brown coming in there at 20-0 against Francie Ntetu, who was 17-1. Ntetu's only professional loss up to that point was up against David Benavidez. That was a TKO loss at the Barclays Center last June, which was, part of that Keith Thurman, Sean Porter card there, but, other than that, he had like a good number of fights that were, within 8 rounds or, 4-round fights, 6-round fights, and 8-round fights. This was, a big step up for Ntetu going up against, Marcus Brown, who is, considered a, contender for, a light heavyweight title in Marcus Brown. And, they had, talks about Marcus Brown, potentially fighting another highly ranked contender in the light heavyweight division, but he ended up, not necessarily going for that here, and just keeping his ranking as number 3 in the WBC light heavyweight rankings, coming up to this particular bout here. And I mean, a lot of people, thought this fight between Marcus Brown and Francie Ntetu was a mismatch from the jump. That, with this being Ntetu's first 10-round fight, that he didn't have much of a chance in this one, and that's basically what ended up happening. When Ntetu ended up getting knocked down in, pretty much, I would say like midway through the first round, up in the corner, got a standing 8 count, but was clearly in trouble. And, Marcus Brown, looked to, try to finish off Ntetu. was really hurting him with a good number of punches. Had into backed into the ropes, leading into a minute left in the first round, and then after that part where there was like a minute left, there was a combination coming to France into by Marcus Brown, which led Arthur McCaney Jr. to step in and stop the fight with 45 seconds left in that first round. So it wasn't really much of anything there in that particular match. And Marcus Brown, I would say, keeps his ranking intact as number 3 in the WBC, and moves to 21-0 in his professional career. So that's something there where I would like to see what ends up happening with Marcus Brown in his next professional fight. Of course, you have the other things happening within the WBC, as they ordered a Donna Stevenson Battle Jack fight to happen with Alexander Kovacic potentially challenging Eleider Alvarez, but Alvarez ended up passing on that mandated fight between him and Kovacic. So with Marcus Brown, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, had a key win over Thomas Williams Jr. and Sean Monahan last year to get to the ranking that it has in the WBC up until this point. So with that, he's kind of like, seeing if he could look into bigger and better things. He's, rated number 7 in the WBA. The WBA will have, their light heavyweight title on the line, on March 3rd. He's also rated number 3 in the IBF, with Artur Beterbiev as the defending IBF light welterweight champion. Excuse me. Had something happening there in the background. Like we're saying, he's number 7 in the WBA, number 3 in the IBF, and number 2 in the WBO. Below Alexander Kovacic, with Sergey Kovalev as that WBO light heavyweight champion. So there's going to be, a few options for Marcus Brown in the light heavyweight division, while a couple of those titles will be on the line here real soon there. So he's, going to be floating around as one of the people that will be next in line for a light heavyweight title shot. Like I said, with that, being a quick fight. It was like a good little break, between that and the Showtime telecast there, and so had like a little break and whatnot. Met a few folks that are in the boxing discussion, part of the boxing community. So a quick shouts out to them. Adam, I was able to meet up with, and Matthew, I was able to meet up with, and a couple of other folks before the co-feature bout came up on Showtime Sports there. So, was able to meet with them, rap with them a little bit about, boxing talk, so that was pretty good. And then, the co-feature started up on Showtime, where you had the IBF lightweight championship on the line, kind of, as Robert Easter Jr. Took on Javier Fortuna, with Robert Easter Jr. coming in at 20-0 as the IBF World Lightweight title champion. He was able to weigh in at 134.5 pounds. While Javier Fortuna came in there, came into the weigh-in and showed up overweight. Had like a little bit of time in order to try to shed the rest of the weight, and he was not able to do it. So his final weight on that Friday was 136.5 pounds, leaving him ineligible to win the IBF lightweight championship. But as far as the fight itself, it was, something where you kind of like saw a couple of things back and forth within the first half of the fight. In reference to Robert Easter, I saw a couple of good things with him. He was, attempting to use his reach, throwing his 1-2, leading with his left and then following up with the right hand. He was able to connect a couple of times with that right hand. However, he ended up getting too close to Javier Fortuna a lot. And to compound that, Fortuna is much shorter than Robert Easter Jr. At 5'6", so Robert Easter being around 5'11". And he was also, at a distance, kind of like ducking or kind of like crouching a little bit while looking at Robert Easter. And so Easter would have to punch a little bit more downward and try to use his reach a little bit more in order to get to Javier Fortuna, which he had a lot of issues doing here in this fight. And he was getting caught a good number of times there against Javier Fortuna up close, and also sometimes in the distance when he wasn't throwing his jab. And this is something that, he had issues with in a couple of his previous fights, notably, against Richard Comey for the IBF lightweight title. He was having those type of issues, and in a couple of these fights where he's had a big lead or seemed like he had a large advantage against his opponent, he still would not take advantage of his physical attributes there against his opponents. And here against Javier Fortuna, he really didn't do that. And that, ended up being a big deterrent here in this fight against Javier Fortuna, who, was able to find his target. And once he was able to find his target, he was able to, gain a little bit more confidence in this particular fight. Where I was around a few people that were big fans of Robert Easter Jr. Somebody who kind of was also part of the Toledo, Ohio family, as Robert Easter Jr. is from Toledo, Ohio. And they were, constantly rooting for Robert Easter in this particular, matchup. And it was something where I just looked at this fight as the rounds were going through, and I was just saying, what is Easter, doing there? Not using his reach, not using his height, getting himself in close quarters way too often, against Javier Fortuna. And after about 9 or 10 rounds, it seemed like Fortuna had a lot of confidence, and it also seemed like Fortuna was landing the more telling punches or more noticeable punches, in the ring against Robert Easter Jr. And so it was, basically down to the 11th and 12th rounds, and in the 11th and 12th rounds, it seemed like Robert Easter was the one that was tiring out, and that Javier Fortuna was the one that had the more energy, the more was more active, tried to get at his opponent a little bit more instead of trying to tie up his opponent, which is what Easter ended up trying to do in many occasions there. And with that being known, it went through all 12 rounds, and it went to a decision with the judges. Now, before I go through those that decision, you did have something in round 2 where Javier Fortuna lost a point in round 2 there for holding and hitting, and that was a key factor in this particular matchup here. But the scorecards basically went as follows. You had Glenn Feldman with a score of 114-113 for Robert Easter Jr. You had John McKay with a score of 114-113 for Javier Fortuna. And Kevin Morgan scored about 115-112 for Robert Easter Jr. for Easter to keep the IBF lightweight championship and keep his undefeated record intact at 20. Now moving to 21-0. So it looked like with these judges' scorecards as far as total rounds being scored, both Glenn Feldman and Glenn Feldman had it 6 rounds to 6, with Fortuna losing a point. And then you had John McKay have it 7 rounds to 5 for Fortuna, with him losing a point. That's why it's 114-113. And Kevin Morgan scored it 115-112, with Fortuna losing a point, so it'd be 7 rounds to 5 for Robert Easter Jr. But like I was saying, like I was saying there, it just didn't seem like Robert Easter Jr. Was doing much from, I would say, the 9th round until the 12th round there. So, it was not like I was saying, it was not a very good performance there by Robert Easter Jr. To basically defend his version of the lightweight title, and it was something because there was talks about him. Yeah, there were talks about him going up against Mikey Garcia before the end of 2017. They were trying to see if they could, pull off a fight between Robert Easter Jr. and Mikey Garcia, before the end of 2017 to see if they could schedule it for some date in 2018, but they weren't able to, pull it off there. And, instead, what ended up happening was Mikey Garcia is trying to get a 140-pound title. Yeah, while he was trying to get a 140-pound title, and then as a result of that, that's why they had scheduled this particular matchup with Robert Easter Jr. and Javier Fortuna. And Easter said that this was a very difficult fight for him after the fight was done. It seemed like that they that he was trying to he said that he was trying to get a knockout in this particular fight, but most of the fans after the particular decision weren't really buying it. A lot of the fans inside the Barclays Center felt that Javier Fortuna won that fight. Basically outworked Robert Easter in this particular fight. So I don't know what he can basically what Easter could basically do here from this point. I mean, he's really talking about trying to fight the other champions and trying to be a unified champion. But the way that he performed in this particular fight against Javier Fortuna, I really do not see him against the likes of Jorge Linares and a Mikey Garcia getting or being very successful in those potential matchups with those two. And so there's a lot of things for him to work at there. On the flip side, you had Javier Fortuna, of course, very disappointed that the judges did not give him the decision. In that he was really he was really kind of wanting to see if he could make up for it, or I'd say clamor for a rematch against Robert Easter Jr. Of course he's not from the state, so you want to say English is not his primary language. But after it was kind of like saying that he would like a rematch, another shot at Robert Easter Jr. There to basically prove that he is the better fighter between those two. Showtime commentator Jim Gray had a follow-up question for him, saying, will you make weight this time? And Javier Fortuna responded with a what? And, when he said that, I kind of like cracked up because, it seemed like he really understood what Jim Gray was asking him in terms of weight and making weight, because, he wasn't able to make weight in this particular matchup against Robert Easter Jr. So that's something that we'll have to look towards to see if Robert Easter Jr. would grant him a rematch if there's no unification about in sight. For the IBF champion Robert Easter Jr. So that's something there that you may have to look for in the future. Once again, the number to dial in to talk boxing is 347-237-5539. Once again, 347-237-5539. Press the 1 key to get on queue, and you'll be able to talk live on the show. All right. Now I just wanted to get into the main event of the evening there at the Barclays Center. You had the IBF Welterweight Championship on the line as you had defending champion Errol Spence Jr. with his first, basically the first defense of that IBF welterweight championship as he was defending it against Lamont Peterson. Lamont Peterson being a two-division world champion, coming in there with 35 wins, just 3 losses and 1 draw. He had the WBA regular welterweight championship before this particular fight, winning it against David Amnesian. I think this was over in Cincinnati, Ohio, in February of last year, but wasn't necessarily able to do anything with that WBA regular belt over the rest of that 2017. While on the flip side, Errol Spence Jr. was able to finally get the title shot against Kell Brook in May 27th of 2017, and was able to notch a KO victory to win that IBF welterweight championship. And then, after that, he wasn't able to get a fight himself. So before the end of 2017, they were able to make this fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Lamont Peterson at the Barclays Center. And this particular matchup was something that I was trying to look forward to. Me personally, I'm a fan of Errol Spence Jr. And also of Lamont Peterson. Both guys, both gritty. Both able to get at their opponents. Both with concentrated body attacks against their opponents. So this was like something where it was kind of looking into who would be able to get their offensive arsenal out and see if they were able to execute their game plan out there in the ring. And I mean, from round one, from the jump, you saw Errol Spence being able to get everything done that he needed to get done there in the ring. And it was something that I was kind of shocked at it, what was happening in this particular fight between Errol Spence and Lamont Peterson. You have somebody in Lamont Peterson that's been in a lot of championship fights, a lot of notable fights, like I was saying in the preview that was on the CHDonsports.com. You had him going up against the likes of Amir Khan. You had him going up against Timothy Bradley. He was able to go up against guys like Victor Ortiz. Big notable guys over in the 140-pound division when he was at 140. And I would have thought that, him alongside with trainer Barry Hunter, that they would be able to prepare well against Errol Spence. And it just looked like he was an absolute novice against Errol Spence. Errol Spence was, able to do anything he wanted in the ring against Lamont Peterson. It almost seemed like target practice there. And this was like immediate. You had, you basically had, Errol Spence be able to execute everything that he needed to do, was able to execute his body attack. He was able to connect with his left hand a lot. He was able to move inside and outside of the pocket. There was like a time, either in the 4th round or after the knockdown that happened in the 5th round, where it just seemed like Errol Spence looked much faster, much sharper, and much better than Lamont Peterson out there in the ring, and it just seemed like a whitewash. And before the fight, I kind of, tried to predict this fight. I said that, this would have been something where it would kind of be like a carbon copy version of each other, with Errol Spence being the younger person. But I was going to say that Errol Spence was going to end up stopping Lamont Peterson. And Peterson, after the 7th round, was not able to, answer the bell for the 8th round, as his trainer, Barry Hunter, ended up stopping the fight before the 8th round was about to jump off. And so Errol Spence ends up defending that IBF World Welterweight title, moving to 23-0 and getting his 20th knockout of his career, while Lamont Peterson falls to 35 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw. So that is, basically my quick synopsis of what was happening there in the main event at the Barclays Center. Now, I see we got 2 callers in. First, I'm going to get 813 on the line here. Tell us your name, where you're calling from.
Hey, James, how you doing, man?
What's going on?
It's Matt.
It was good there, Matt.
Hey, I was just calling in. I wanted to kind of weigh in on the fight a little bit with Lamont Peterson and Errol Spence Jr. I think most people figured that Spence was going to win the fight. I don't think a lot of people necessarily thought it was going to be as one-sided as it was. But I think what we saw start to unfold there is like a lot of veteran fighters do. After the 5th round, they flip a switch and the fight changes. Adjustments are made. The whole angle and the aspect of which they're fighting changes to a different level. And that's where I think a lot of these veteran fighters that have been going up against some especially some of the more recent ones, we've seen it like Vasyl Lomachenko, where guys aren't coming out of the corner because of that. But I felt that because Lamont Peterson, I don't feel that he's a true welterweight. He's another one of these guys that are most comfortable and best suited being at 140 pounds. Even though he can make the weight, he's never had a compelling fight at 147. And I think after this fight, he needs to look at either moving back down to 140 or looking at other options in his career, because 147 is just not a weight class for him. The reason he was able to do what he did against Danny Garcia, because essentially that was basically both their first fights at 147, but they're both more true 140-pound fighters. Again, we haven't seen Danny Garcia fight since the Thurman fight, so it's I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that got into his head too. So fighting somebody that's a true welterweight in the division, I think Spence is a true welterweight. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here. I don't think a Thurman fight is likely next. I think Thurman and Porter are supposed to rematch in March, isn't it? I know he's been back in the gym.
Nah, nothing's really been confirmed yet in reference to Thurman, so that's a wait and see approach as far as I know.
So I know. Just talking about guys over there in Tampa Bay, I know Antonio Tarver is back in training again. I think he wants to make another comeback.
I don't know. He
wants Wilder.
Approaching 50. So. Well, he said that before, so I don't know how that's going to go.
He said that before the Cunningham fight and then he got a draw.
So,
and then, yeah.
So, yep. Got another caller in here, area code 646. Tell us your name, where you're calling from.
Yo, this is Matt. You already know what it is, man. I told you guys last week Errol Spence is going to demolish this guy. The fight was just as easy as I thought it would be. You know, I think Peterson was going to come out and try to box Spence. He was going to try to pick his spots and maybe try to capitalize on any mistakes that Spence made. But the problem with that plan is Spence is so relentless that you saw in the middle rounds he had to shift back into fighting mode, and that's always a bad idea when you're fighting Errol Spence. He had nowhere to go because Spence took the movement out of him with that early body work. Like, it sounded like every time Spence would hit him to the body, it sounded like a gunshot. Peterson stood no chance. He was there just to sit and duck for walking devastation that Errol Spence is. And I think we are in the infancy stages of witnessing an all-time great fighter. A lot of people don't know it yet because, what has he done? I'm telling you, I see the talent. I see what this kid does. You are witnessing one of the GOATs. And if you're looking to see who's really going to challenge Errol Spence, then you're wasting your time if you're looking at 147. You're wasting your time if you're looking at Thurman. You're wasting your time if you're looking at Crawford. You're wasting your time if you're looking at Garcia or Porter or, God forbid, you even think Jeff Horn has a chance. The only guy on the boxing scene right now that stands a chance against Errol Spence, he's campaigning right now at 160, and his name is Canelo Alvarez. That's it. Everyone else is just cannon fodder for Hurricane Spence. The only guy that can challenge Spence will be Canelo Alvarez. And mark this down today, I predict that in 2019 we see Errol Spence Jr. versus Canelo Alvarez for the lineal middleweight championship.
Well, I mean, I've kind of favored Errol Spence, at welterweight, for the past few years or so, even before he even challenged for the IBF welterweight championship. I mean, I just thought it would be only a matter of time before, he would get that, world title shot. And then in that title shot, I mean, he had, a couple of occasions where he was getting caught a couple of times, but it wasn't like Brooke had anything really serious that put Errol Spence in real trouble. And so, once that happened and then Errol Spence made his adjustments in there, along with his, his trainer that, I kind of like put, high praise towards, and Derek James, that, he was able to dispatch of Kell Brook for that KO victory to get the IBF title. And then here in this particular matchup with Lamont Peterson, it just looked like, I mean, to me, one of the things that I was saying leading into the fight was that I was looking forward to seeing what would happen between these two trainers with, Derek James and Barry Hunter. And in this particular fight, it looked like Derek James was the guy that was the much more experienced trainer, and it seemed like he was the one that, had been in the ring against or been in the ring with more people. Even though he's been a former fighter himself, it just looked like he's been teaching more fighters or more notable fighters than Barry Hunter was. It didn't seem like Barry Hunter gave Lamont Peterson anything to adjust to what Errol Spence was doing. I mean, he was getting hit with the left hand all day. He didn't make no lateral movements in the ring. He just looked like a sitting duck. And there it just seemed like an absolute blowout. But it was a great either way with that. It was a great overall performance by Errol Spence Jr. And I kind of echo your sentiments in reference to him and as far as the 147-pound division. I don't see anybody at 147 pounds beating him. at 154 pounds. He would have the overall talent to beat just about everybody at 154 pounds, and that may actually be his quote-unquote natural fighting weight, because he kind of like comes in or comes down from a much higher weight to get to 147 pounds. So if he's able to get to 154 pounds, within 2018, late 2018 or probably 2019, then he'll be familiar with that weight as well, and then potentially have that matchup between him and Canelo Alvarez. I don't know if it's going to end up being in 2019, but I see it being happening in the future. I'm just getting in here, area code 205. I'm going to try to get his thoughts on what was happening. So area code 205, what's going on with you?
Hey, what's going on, James? This is Mike Brady, man. How you doing?
Doing good there, Mike. Doing good.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, the fight was probably what most people thought it was going to be. Errol Spence did what he was supposed to do. I think that the plan, or lack thereof a plan, we may never know which one it is, was not a good idea for Peterson to go in there and try to sustain what he was doing. That his approach was very unsustainable. He couldn't sustain that approach. And so I think, in my opinion, hindsight, and I thought what he was going to do, which is box and try to stick to the boxing and get Errol Spence into the later rounds to where he could start doing the, rough and tumble stuff. But, I mean, he didn't put many hands on Errol Spence, and Errol Spence was fresh going into round 6 or whatever round it was. And I think the difference, in my opinion, of this Errol Spence fight to the other fight that I've seen him in, at least the high-profile fight, is his jab. He definitely used his jab this fight, and he looked like in that match, he looked like an unbeatable fighter when he used his jab. And if he does use his jab against the top-tier fighters in 147 or 154, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I don't agree with, was it Matt? I don't agree with Matt, where he says that he will be unheralded in 147 and 154, because I definitely think that the difference between everyone else pre-injury, I'm speaking of Keith Thurman, is that Keith Thurman has the power to get Errol Spence's respect. And so we all know that the tactic that Keith Thurman is going to employ, Thurman is not going to sit there. He's going to do the same thing that he did with Sean Porter. He's going to move, and then he's going to swing. He's going to try to walk Errol Spence into punches as he moves and stuff. And so, that's my thoughts.
All right, I just seemed like, Spence just seemed like very impressive in his fight here against Lamont Peterson, and it was seeming like, after the fight, it didn't even seem like about 8 hours or so. They posted on Twitter that, there's another match lined up for him coming up real soon. So he's gonna be right back at it here. And I'm, curious as to see who his next opponent would be, because, I mean, I don't see, somebody like Sean Porter being somebody next, specifically when they haven't, posted them on the IVF rankings as of yet. But, it's not that hard for any of these boxing organizations to post somebody on their boxing rankings anyway. So, something there. Is that somebody there? Hold on a second. Let me see something. Hello? Looks like I'm having issues here. Hold on a minute. I'm gonna try to add some people back one by one. 646, you here with me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, gotcha. It was looking like some type of dial tone was in the background there. 205, you back? Looks like something there with Mike. So, hey, Mike, I'm gonna like drop you and see if you can call back in here within the next 4 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying there with Errol Spence. I mean, he's looking like he's trying to get right back at it in the fight game. So I'd be extra curious to see what would be next for him real soon, because it looks like he's trying to get back at it, I guess, within the next 3 or 4 months.
Well, let me clarify something I said real quick, because I think Mike and other people might have misunderstood what I said. I feel that Errol Spence is a true welterweight. He is a true welterweight. He belongs in the welterweight class, and he could probably move up. To 154 with the way he looked last night. But we can't sit back and pretend like we haven't seen guys in recent years come out and have stellar performances with guys that are stylistically in their favor. A lot of the guys that Errol has fought has been either talent-wise not there yet, or the ones that are there, but style-wise, they're pretty much staying in front of him. Lamont, this was Lamont Peterson that was just, I'm going to hang out, I'm going to try to box my way out of this, and then come on strong late. But the problem is, you can't do that against somebody that's elite world class. You can't, a guy that's a true welterweight, you moved up in weight. He's a true welterweight. He has the power. He has, he has the thunder to bring to you, man. So you can't do that. Where Danny Garcia, he could loom around and box a little bit more, because both of those guys are just moving up from 140 to 147. So their abilities are much more on equal playing ground. Errol Spence that's a level above him, man. And I think Errol Spence, like Mike said, if he can learn to be consistent with that jab, that'll help. But my biggest criticism on Errol Spence is lack of head movement, lack of fit footwork, and when you have a guy that's just covering up and standing in front of you, you're not really showcasing much of that at all. Where you're not, it's going to be a different story against a guy like Sean Porter. He moves around from all sides. Even if he's going to look at Bud Crawford Crawford's a whole nother story too. Whereas maybe the power isn't going to be the same as you see with Thurman, at least proven at 147. We haven't seen him fight at 147. But that, from what I understand, that fight should be in April against Jeff Horn. I'm just waiting for his people to finish finalizing that, and I'll have more information on that. But even him, he moves a lot. He'll fight southpaw. He'll fight orthodox. It doesn't matter. He'll bring power from either side. When you're fighting guys that do have good footwork, and are able to bring power and move and come from different angles, unlike anybody else he's ever fought, that's a big difference. Even Kell Brook. I mean, we all put an asterisk by Kell Brook and his titles he had, and the people he seemed to have conveniently not fought in to defend that title, or really fought in his career to show some, I guess what we would say, legitimacy at the welterweight division. And we saw that against Errol Spence. He broke him down, same way. But when you have a guy that's going to be willing to stand in front of you, and you don't have to make the lateral movements, and you're not going to have to use your footwork and move angles and have the head and shoulder work to go with it, then it's going to be a different story. So that's the thing is he's not in tune with that. We haven't seen him face anybody like that. And I just fear that Lamont Peterson at welterweight, if he stays there, he's going to be like this guy that they run up and comers through, like they were doing with with Robert Guerrero.
Robert Guerrero.
It's just kind of the same thing. So
Interesting there.
I don't know. Is Mike back on? Did he hear what I said?
Yeah, he was able to get back on here pretty much just in time as we, just getting into overtime section of the show. So, Mike, you're, back on there with us. Just want to see 646 or Mike, if you have any closing things to say about either that Errol Spence, Lamont Peterson fight, or Errol Spence in general.
I don't really have anything else to add, to be honest with you. I think what Spence does in the ring speaks for itself. I hear a lot of excuses and alibis about why he might not be what I think he is, but just stay tuned. It's got to be. To me, he's a more athletic version of what the media hyped Triple G up to be. Except Errol Spence is more athletic, and he is coming for everyone. And there's no ducking and hiding from Errol Spence. He's gonna go to any weight. He's gonna knock on Keith Thurman's door. He's gonna look for Showtime Sean Porter. Anyone who wants it is gonna get it, and he's gonna deliver that. Now, the reason why I say that I foresee him matching up with Canelo in the future is because I predict that Oscar is going to end up signing Spence. He's been working real hard behind the scenes to sign Spence because he's looking to really up his stable. But I think he's going to dangle Canelo as a carrot to get Spence to sign with him. That's why I think in 2019 you're going to see Spence versus Canelo.
All right. Mike, got something? It looks like he has it. He just got back on, but just like I was saying, we're here.
What do you think?
Oh, no. If you had anything else to say about the Errol Spence fight, or as far as what else is in store for him?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed everybody's comments over this last 15 or so minutes because I've been sleeping on the air mattress for the longest. And I just had my bed delivered, so I'm going to have me a good night's sleep tonight. But can anybody mind saying their rebuttal to me, very quickly so I can offer, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But if I can offer
I'm good.
comments.
I don't mind repeating myself to you again. Anyways, I was just saying that I think you were kind of misunderstanding what I said earlier. It's not that I don't think that Errol Spence is capable of fighting at welterweight or at 157. It's more so that I think he is more of a true welterweight, that he can fight. He can fight at 147, and he might. I think he does have the capability of going up to 154. But just what I've seen from him so far, again, but not to take away from the prospect of what he could be, his upside, it's just that all the fighters that he's fought either have been at a lesser talent level and he's owned, or the people that are at a higher talent level, skills-wise or stylistically, they're people that's going to stay in front of him. So he hasn't, my knock, and has been, I haven't seen the head and shoulder movement. I haven't seen him have to use his footwork. Thing he did improve on, like you did say, is the jab. But what else is he going to bring along? I get it. He's improving. And with higher skilled fighters that he fights along the way, he'll pick those things up and we'll be able to see those things showcased more. But right now, I just see him fighting like a Sean Porter or even a Bud Crawford being a big uphill battle for him. Just simply because stylistically they can fight orthodox or southpaw. They have power from either side. They pick different angles and stuff to come in at. So it's not like that. It's somebody that's going to be in a set position that's going to stay right in front of him. He's going to have to be able to move, and I've never seen him to where he's had to even be tested with lateral movement or anything like that. He's always there. He's just kind of there in front of him, you know. He's been kind of a statue in a sense, like I said before. You know what I mean?
And so my sentiments are sort of similar to yours, Matt, in that, like, don't get me wrong, I think he will be a tough out for anyone if he uses his jab. I think he will definitely be a tough out. But I have to question, like you are saying, how will he fare when he does fight people who hit him back and who don't take a million punches at the beginning of the round and who are coming out to knock his head off too? Because in the beginning of the Kell Brook fight, he looked pretty vulnerable. He didn't jab that fight, which made it a lot tougher for him, but he looked very vulnerable. If he has incorporated the jab, he got an opportunity to beat everybody, pretty much. But I don't know. I feel like Keith Thurman is not going to give him a lot of chances, and Thurman is going to run him into shots. And Thurman has power enough to hurt him, unless he is, like, I think the other guy, your name is Matt, too, that's what I was saying. Unless he is a lot bigger than everyone else, and, you know, when he comes down in weight, you know, their punching power won't matter. But I don't think that's the case, because I think everybody comes down in weight. And I think we all can agree that Keith Thurman hit hard.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that for me, what I'm saying is that Errol Spence comes down from I say he comes down from a higher weight than most of the other welterweights do. And so once he's, you know, there at 147 pounds and he's able to make 147, he's able to get back his water weight or whatever it is to end up being bigger than a lot of the welterweights that's out there. It's almost like you see how the Charlo brothers were at 154 pounds, or how Jared Hurd is at 154 pounds now, where they're able to make 154 pounds, but by the time they're in the ring, they look like they're 170 to near 175. And so here with Errol Spence, you know, I kind of like see him being closer to, you know, 154 and up once he steps into the ring. So, you know, while he may potentially have a match against Keith Thurman, the thing with Keith Thurman is that Keith Thurman, in many of his recent fights, he had the advantage where he kind of like blocks off his back foot and uses reach against the likes of a Sean Porter and, you know, a Danny Garcia. But, you know, and with those guys, specifically with Danny Garcia, he was able to, you know, use a little bit of power to keep Danny Garcia honest. I'm not certain that would be the case in a potential fight with Errol Spence Jr. I think that, you know, those punches won't be able to affect Errol Spence enough for Spence to stop his approach after Keith Thurman. And the thing about it is that if Keith Thurman is going to be fighting off his back foot, what he's going to have to watch out for is Errol Spence having the ability to cut off the ring, because if he's able to cut off the ring against Keith Thurman, then he'll be able to put in some work against Keith Thurman in the ropes and in the corner. You know, so with that, just like,
with the analysis of Thurman versus Spence, what's the one thing that you can really say is Keith Thurman's weakness? Body shots. He hates taking body shots. And when you're dealing with Errol Spence is relentless to the body. So there's really nothing Thurman is going to be able to do to keep Spence off of him. Spence is going to put the work into the body early. That's going to slow Keith Thurman's movement late, and then look for that fight to be, I'd say, a 7 or 8 round stoppage.
So it'll be pretty much the same as this thing here with Lamont Peterson.
The difference in that fight is that Thurman ain't gonna be okay. Thurman does have body shot issues, but Thurman has power to keep Errol Spence honest. That's the difference in this last fight. Also, Thurman gonna move a lot more. Like, yes, Errol Spence will get him in the rope, but you think that Thurman not gonna hit him at any point in time and get his respect? Because we all know Keith Thurman makes an issue to hit people early and get their respect. Will he keep the same strategy against Errol Spence? Probably not, but that's what he does with all the fights that I've seen him fight. Would that be advised against Errol Spence? No, but I think he will. I think he will try to get Errol Spence respect early, and then after that he'll get on his bike more. I think it's just a different issue because Thurman can hurt him. And do you guys think Thurman can hurt him?
Well, I've said no because I think that Spence will come in as a bigger person than Thurman will. And so, once that fight happens, then, he's going to be ending up being the bigger guy there. Not like as big as, he was against Lamont Peterson, but he'll be at least a little bit bigger to the point where it won't be like Thurman could do something where he could try to see the like the approach that you were talking about, try that approach early on and see if that will be very successful. Because he did try to do that in his fight against Danny Garcia. Both of those guys kind of like scrapped it out in the first round or two, and then after that is when Thurman started to use his boxing skills, utilize his distance, and have Danny Garcia pursue him a little bit more, where he was able to be very successful because Danny Garcia wasn't able to cut the ring off very well against a guy like Keith Thurman. So I see it being a little bit different in this case between Keith Thurman and Errol Spence. I say specifically because Spence is going to be the guy with the reach advantage too. So you got to look out for that.
As much as I hate to say it, I agree with Mike. The thing is, like, I think Thurman's a good enough fighter where the reach advantage and just a guy constantly jabbing out there, he's going to be able to get around it. And we know if he's going to leave that lead jab out there, his body's open. Thurman will go for the body. We know that. He's not going to be stuck at just headshots. He's going to attack all facets. And, again, Spence hasn't seen anybody that comes at him like that. So I agree with Mike. I think Thurman comes early. I think he tries to keep him honest. If he's trying to do a lot of the jabbing, I think he's going to go more for the body and then try to get him to box him a little bit inside and then get on his bicycle and see what his skills are. Because my bet would be, because I haven't seen it, is that he probably doesn't have the ability to cut off the ring, kind of like Danny Garcia. It could be a similar fight. It's just the guy that on the other side has more power and more reach and probably will size-wise be bigger. But, again, he can use some of the same tools to overcome it, the fighter. So, again, he's younger. And, again, a lot of these things, conceptually, I think, I know myself, and I think Mike too, is a little bit because we don't have anything to base off why he would be able to or that he would do something in a fight, because he hasn't displayed that in any of his fights. We've seen in fights where guys will stretch the fight out, even though they're winning against a lesser opponent, to work out some other skills. To work on a jab, to work on, footwork or something, As fans, it's not as appealing to watch that. It's like punches end it. But they're working on improvement. So can't hardly get too upset with that. So again, it's just that I can't. Again, I don't want him to sell him short on what his potential is. But as for now, what he's displayed in the ring against the opponents he's had, he hasn't shown the lateral movement. He hasn't shown the footwork. It's pretty much a pretty wide, left foot forward, pretty straight back and forth. Not a lot of footwork, not a lot of head or shoulder movement, and he hasn't had to because stylistically or, ability-wise, he hasn't had to face somebody that has thrown that at him. Again, I think Crawford, give him something completely different that he hasn't seen. Sean Porter, too. They give him something completely different he hasn't seen. So, I don't know. I'm almost rather see him go, the route fighting guys like, see him fight, I don't know, who's the number one contender for him. I'd rather see him fight some more people before he gets to those more of a mega fight. Keep him waiting a little longer. So that's how you build it up, and this is a problem that Wilder, again, y'all had to know I had to take a shot at what's going wrong there. The problem there is, again, he doesn't have a fan base or a following. So you can't, as a guy that you think that you want to fight against somebody on the business side of it, you can't go up and say, hey, I want that belt. I want this chance. I deserve an opportunity. Maybe based on your record, maybe not so much who you fought, but based on your record or maybe the belt you have, it makes sense to have the fight. But when you don't have a following, truly, you're not pulling numbers. We can see the rating. I'm not going to get deep into that, but I'm just saying it's like you don't have the muster there. And I would say with Spence, and that's just what I would encourage these fighters to do, is build up that fan base more. That's why the draw for Canelo is there, because he has a fan base behind him. It doesn't hurt these guys
already
to go.
Built in.
It doesn't hurt
that's
these
the
guys
thing,
to go and do something outside of boxing to bring people in. That's how Mayweather did it. Mayweather didn't bring people into boxing because he was awe-inspiring. He was very boring in the ring for the average person to watch. But a lot of people watched because he had to bring in people that weren't boxing people or that were just sports fans or the fringe, fight fans. Bring them in because it was a spectacle. He drew them in. He went outside of boxing to do that. And these guys from the U.S. are going to have to do that. Or they're going to have to do what Daniel Jacobs did and sign with Eddie Hearns to get fights over there where there is a fan base that's larger for the sport. Either or.
Well, that's something that we're going to have to wait to see on that in reference to Daniel Jacobs signing with Eddie Hearn because, you see that he couldn't get the fight between him and Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders ended up, is fighting Martin Murray because, Saunders is over there with Frank Warren, and Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn ain't really, all too cool with each other, at the moment. But one thing that I wanted to get at, as I'm going to go back on the parts of the show while y'all are on, is that IBF lightweight title fight between, Robert Easter Jr. and Javier Fortuna, where Fortuna wasn't able to make weight. Just wanted to get a couple of comments from y'all in reference to that particular fight. Just wanted to start with 646 Matt on that.
Yeah, it's really not much to say about that fight. It was an ugly fight. I thought the fight could have went either way. To me, it was on the 7-5 spectrum either way. Don't really care if you had Fortuna or Easter winning. It was a fight that I don't want to see a rematch. I think I'm done seeing that kind of style matchup. Robert Easter had a terrible game plan. Honestly, I don't know what the hell he was doing. He needs to hook up with one of Emmanuel Stewart's proteges, or he needs to watch some Paul Williams tapes, something, because his strategy was honestly, he should fire his trainer behind that. I don't know what his trainer was telling him. Oh, besides pump the jab, pump the jab, pump the jab, pump the jab. Well, duh. We know he wants to pump the jab, but he's not doing much else. He's crouching down. He's fighting small. I don't know what it is Easter was trying to do. If Easter thinks that he really wants Mikey Garcia or Jorge Linares next, then he is really – they should drug test him for marijuana or something because he's on something. Because from what I've seen of Easter, Garcia or Linares, or God forbid he even steps up to fight Lomachenko, will dissect him with ease. So he needs to hook up with a different trainer, maybe Jonathan Banks or somebody like that.
Yeah, because, this is not the only fight where Robert Easter kind of like fought to cater to his smaller opponent, where he smothered himself up. You saw that in the vacant IBF title fight against Ricochet Comey. He smothered himself up. There were times where he had Comey in trouble, and he ended up going towards the ropes where Comey was and then getting caught up in a clinch instead of, utilizing his distance and taking his time and being patient and then picking his opponent apart. And I kind of agree with you there. I think it's just something where he's just going to have to get a new trainer where he's going to have to do much better as a guy that's 5'11" with the reset he has in the lightweight division. It's almost like what is his name that's about to be part of that rematch? Francis Barthélemy. Barthélemy is another, tall guy with length that's part of those lower weight divisions there. But, to me, it kind of like seems like Barthélemy does a little bit better job of keeping his distance against his opponent than Robert Easter does. And, if he goes up against a Mikey Garcia or a Jorge Linares, he's going to get picked apart by those two guys. Mike Grady, you got any comments on that fight if you're able to catch it?
Yeah, can you hear me? I saw the end of it.
Yeah.
So maybe like the last 4 or 5 rounds. And, the part that I saw, Fortuna was winning. I didn't see the full fight, so I can't say, what should have transpired. But the parts that I did see, Easter Jr. was not getting the best of those exchanges. And, Matt is right. He needs to look at, Paul Williams was an exceptional guy in that he had wind and he threw 100 punches around. So if he looked at Paul Williams, can he actually sustain that? Does he throw 100 punches? Because he wasn't throwing a lot of punches toward the rounds that I was seeing him fight. That's the only thing I would question, would it be a good idea for him to try to emulate a Paul Williams when Paul Williams had superhumanly like stamina, like that dude.
Right.
I don't know what he did. He had some great stamina, very, very good stamina. He need to use his height. Why do that stuff? Like even Paul Williams should have used his height, but he had the stamina. He threw 100 punches around. So, against people not named Sergio Martinez and Eslan de Lara, it worked. But yeah.
Yeah, it's something where Robert Easter just doesn't throw that much there. And I haven't really seen him, be that impressive since his fight that he had at the DC Armory. So that to me was just a case where Robert Easter just has to do something a little bit better in order to give his opponents a much bigger disadvantage there. So I can't I can't really put something on there on that particular fight, I would say, where, you know, Easter clearly was the better fighter in that particular fight. It's like, you know, 646 said, you could score at 7-5 either way, but I just felt that Javier Fortuna was, you know, the better fighter in that particular thing. Just moving forward now, you have like a couple of fights coming up next week. Particularly like January 27th, you have a couple of headline fights on there. World Boxing Super Series, the semifinals with Alexander Usyk against Maris Brides for the WBO and WBC cruiserweight belts. And on the HBO telecast, you're going to have the vacant WBA regular welterweight championship on the line with Lucas Matisse against Sira Kiram. And also Jorge Linares will be in action, defending his lightweight title against Mercedes Gesta. That'll be at Inglewood, California. So that's a couple of things to look forward to next Saturday. You also have like a few other notable fighters, classic fighters that'll be fighting real soon. Zab Judah will be in the ring in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, also on January 27th. And I think everybody's favorite fighter, Roy Jones Jr., will be fighting in Pensacola on February 8th, so be on the lookout for that as well. Other thing that I wanted to, you know, mention is the Mikey Garcia fight that he was going to, you know, have in the super lightweight division against Sergey Lipinets is going to be delayed. Pretty much going to be pushed back a month. It was originally scheduled for February 10th. Now they rescheduled it for March 10th. So Mikey Garcia will be going up against Sergey Lipinets on March 10th. So those are the few things that we have going on there. And you know, at the end of the fight at the Barclays Center, they were promoting the March 3rd main event for the WBC Heavyweight Championship. Deontay Wilder against Luis Ortiz. Tickets should be on sale right now. If they're not, then they should have a pre-sale going on. Either do a code word boxing or do a code word heavyweight to be able to see what seats are available at this time. So that's pretty much the rundown that I have right there for that. I'm trying to get up there for March 3rd, but if I do that, I'm not renting a car. It costs too much money. These tolls are just brutal, and I ain't having it. I'm bumped this, man. I'm going on a bus. I'm gonna go like on a boat bus or make a bus or something, because I ain't down with these tolls, man. So that's what I pretty much had there so far in reference to what's upcoming next week in the future. So I'm gonna open the floor. If anybody else had any comments here before I close out for this episode.
I'm just looking forward to Deontay Wilder knocking out Luis Ortiz, and maybe, you know, he won't get caught with the Manny Pacquiao. I mean, he won't get caught with. Hopefully the fight happens. How about that?
All right. Anybody else? All right. Seems that is it there for this episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. Be sure to catch the next version coming up next Sunday on January 28th. Be sure to catch the sister shows on the Go Long Media channel, as you have the Cold Hard Truth on Sports Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. with Matthew Long, and you have Take the Cell Football Talk Show Wednesday nights at 8:30 p.m. with Callie Mike as the host of that show. And that, you know, pretty much covers everything. Like I say, at the end of every show, the point in boxing is hit or not get hit, not to stand and trade. On that note, I'm out. Thanks for calling, and have a good evening.